Ciao famiglia, welcome to another YouTube video, and this is an actually very exciting video. I'm going to be showing you 5 of my favorite exercises that help me build my glutes, okay? So before we get into it, I want you to take into consideration a little disclaimer. This is something that's worked for me, and I always encourage you to always explore different variations of different exercises to see what works best for you, just because we've got different genetics, different body compositions, different limb length, for example, okay? So it's really, really important to, of course, you take into consideration as an example, for example, what I'm going to show you and what's worked for me, but test it out. Try different variations of every single machine. But if you want me to help you find out what works best for you, I always offer one-to-one online coaching where I literally prepare a full plan from scratch just for you. So link in the description below if you want to start online coaching with me. Anyway, let's just get into it straight away. So, one of the first staple exercises, of course, squats, okay? So, when I first started, okay, as a beginner, I also used to be very, very intimidated by the squat rack, okay? But also, we know that squats are not glute isolation, just glutes. Obviously, it's a compound movement, okay? So, it also targets your legs as well, which kind of helped me develop my legs, as you can see too. But I would say the squats are one of my staple exercises that also help me develop my glutes as well, okay? So I used to be scared of the gym as well. Once upon a time, I used to be a beginner as well. I used to feel exactly like you. I used to be intimidated by a busy environment as well, okay? So do not feel alone in this if you're a beginner and you feel like you're a bit intimidated by the gym, especially when they're very, very busy. So what really helped me was to go to the gym when simply wasn't that busy at all. So I used to pick out times, and actually my gym has got a little app where you can track people's attendance. So it will tell you when it's less busy, or you can simply ask at the reception as well if you don't have that option. So when I used to be intimidated by the squat rack as a beginner, squats still used to be one of the staple exercises. I just used to do a different variation, and that variation was simply a Smith machine squat. We don't have a Smith machine over here, so I can't quickly demonstrate you, but Smith machine is pretty much like a squat rack. It's just that you can't really move the bar. You can just move it vertically, so up and down, okay? And it was just easier because that meant that if I fell, for example, or if I lost control of the bar, it would just be easier because it will still stay there. I won't be able to fall on it, you know what I mean? So it's just a great option for beginners in general. So I really recommend you using the Smith machine if you're intimidated by the squat rack. The only little tip I'm going to give you if you want to target your glutes more than your legs is to, let's pretend that this is the Smith machine. So let's actually go over here, okay? The Smith machine will be stuck, so you can just move vertically, right? So I would just recommend stepping forward. So rather than just be directly vertically and just go up and down, which will be more quad dominant, step forward 1 or 2 steps and then just go up and down, almost like you're leaning against it, if it makes sense. After the Smith machine, I graduated onto the squat rack, but not straight away, not through doing the squat rack. So I would say for the first year, I was really slow as well. I was taking my time because back then I didn't have anyone teaching me like I'm doing with you, and no one was doing YouTube videos, I think, as in depth as I do, to be fair. I do like to think that I put so much information out there to help you guys, so I hope you appreciate it, because back then I didn't have anyone explaining me how to use the machine. So I took my time before graduating to the squat rack, to be fair. It took about a year doing squats with Smith machine. And then when I finally took courage to step into the squat rack, I actually started doing butt squats. Let me show you how to do them if you also want to have a feel. So grabbed a little bench, which is where I'm gonna do my butt squats, okay? And why are they easier? They're easier if you wanna step to the squat rack, because they'll assist you basically, because with the squat, you normally have to go low, down low yourself. With the squat rack, you've got the assistance of the bench, so you basically sit on the bench. So if something happens, you fall down on the bench, okay? So it's a great alternative as well to kind of transition from the Smith machine to the squat rack, and I really recommend it. Use it. It's Italian in me is always present. So very, very quickly, I'll demonstrate you how to do butt squats. Now, one little mistake, since I'm actually looking at this, I remember I used to put this here and squat just to because I thought they would be more comfortable. But long run, in long term, I actually wouldn't recommend using this, just because it will put your spine, your cervical spine, in a really forward position. Basically, look how I'm here, so uncomfortable. Although it looks like it's helping you here because it won't hurt you as much, it's actually putting you in such a dangerous position, especially when you start loading up the bar with more weight. So I actually really recommend not using it, ditching the bar pad, okay? And start getting used to the bar. It will be a bit painful when you put it here on your traps, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the kind of, you won't feel it as much. Now I can't feel it as much. Even if I put 90 kilos on, I can't feel it here at all, okay? So very nice and easy. You want to get under the bar, okay? Obviously with weight on, but for demonstration purposes, I'm not gonna load it, okay? I like to always put it on the top of my traps, okay? Place it just right on top and just slightly sit down, okay? And back up. Sit down, back up, sit down, back up. Now, this is actually a great glute exercise, and because you don't go all the way down, you also will tend to target your glutes a little bit more. It's a great glute exercise, obviously compound as well, but also glute focused. Now, after this variation is also great if you don't have great ankle and hip mobility, okay? Now, if you want to start building up your squats and obviously get into a more advanced level, then obviously we can get rid of the bench and do what I do now, full depth squats, which I'm going to show you. So now, one thing I really, really recommend doing before getting into your full depth squats is to also mobilize your joints, okay? I never used to do that, and I ended up with a hip injury, and nowadays I can't really squat if I don't do my dynamic stretches before. Because we're filming this video, I haven't really warmed up and done my usual dynamic stretches, so I'll really struggle. I can tell you already, even if I've got no weight, my hips will hurt if I try and go low, but I'll try as much as I can. That's why nowadays I can't really get into a low squat position unless I do my dynamic stretches. And to avoid having this hip impingement, I always recommend doing your dynamic stretches even if you don't have any hip injury, okay? Please, please, it's really, really important. But I'll try my best now. It'll probably really hurt, but yeah, that's what I do now, full squats. I try to go as slow as I can, okay? And then up. I won't do more reps than this because honestly my hips kill unless I do my dynamic stretches. So now I also work on depth and trying to go as slow as I can. So that is my first exercise. Now, my second staple exercise at the moment is RDLs. So put the bar down, grab some plates. So great alternatives to do RDLs is either using a dumbbell, 2 dumbbells, or a kettlebell, just easier than a barbell in general. So with an RDL, as always, guys, for me, remember, hips back, To target your glutes more, you want it more bend at your knees, so slightly down. So rather than having your legs slightly completely straight, and go like that, bend at your knees and go down this way. With an RDL, it's not a deadlift, okay? So remember, I don't want you to go all the way down, okay? Just stop here before you start to bend your back. So as a beginner, slightly wider stance, whatever you prefer or actually you feel comfortable. Really, really important is not to let your knees cave in. I see a lot of beginners making this mistake. When they're going down, they do this with the knees. Do this, okay? The knees go in. Always remember to keep your knees out throughout the whole movement, okay? So really important from this side, okay? Push your hips back, down, 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 down. That's it. Don't go any lower, because if I go any lower, you can see my back starts bending, okay? We don't want that, because that will cause a lot of lower back pain. So down and up, looking down the whole time, nice and easy. Now, I actually do this with a barbell. Now, if you want to do it with a barbell, one big thing to consider, little tip for you, you can use any plates really, but it's just easier to use bigger plates, okay? Because that will automatically remind you not to go all the way down, okay? Because if you use smaller plates, you'll start to arch your back, like I said before, okay? But exactly the same thing with the barbell. You grab it, you go down, you stop below your knees here, and back again. Nice and easy. Now, on to the third exercise. You guys know my calf glute bridges, aka hip thrust variation. Let me show you. Okay, so of course, you guys, you know, I've actually done hip thrust, weirdly enough, since my first ever years of training. I've always enjoyed them, because if I did one thing, and that's one thing that I've always done since the beginning of my training, and that's what helped me build my glutes the most, is always listening to my body. And listen, this is key, and it's the best kind of tip you can give to any person. Why? Because every single person has got a different genetics and different body composition. So what feels right for me will not feel right necessarily for another person, okay? So if, for example, I really enjoy hip thrust, another person, a different person might actually feel an exercise like glute bridges more in the glutes, okay? So that's why I always encourage you to discover and find out and listen to your body. If an exercise doesn't feel right, do not do it and stop immediately, okay? So that being said, I actually have always done this calf variation, which is slightly more glute dominant than a normal hip thrust. So while with a hip thrust, you will go all the way down. So I'll show you quickly the difference. So exactly the same position. You'll be looking down, you'll be looking forward the whole time. You go all the way down with a hip thrust, okay? You go up, squeeze at the top. With a calf, you just go only slightly down and then squeeze at the top. So that is the main difference. So when you do a hip thrust, you engage your quads and hamstrings a little bit more. With the calf variation, it's slightly more glute dominant, okay? So very quickly with a barbell, exactly the same movement, and this is what I've been doing since day one of my training as well. I've always kept doing the calf variation. So same thing, looking forward with the barbell, up, squeezing at the top, then down, only slightly, and then up again, down and up again. Now, how many variations of hip thrust do we know? There are so many. We've got the Smith machine hip thrust, which is great to keep constant tension in your glutes. There is the one directly from the floor called the standard glute bridge. There's a single glute bridge variation, single hip thrust variation. There is so many. There's the frog pump. I always encourage you to try different ones and see what works best for you. Now, moving on to my fourth category that helped me build my glutes the most. Come with me and I'll show you. Guys, there is a love-hate relationship with my beloved split squats. Bulgarian split squats are, they're just evil. But I feel like they also played a huge role with helping me build my glutes the most, okay? So I, not gonna lie, I usually do the variation on the Smith machine. However, here we don't have a Smith machine, so I'm gonna show you a different variation. As always, guys, you always have to try different things and see what works best for you. For me, personally, what worked the best was a Smith machine variation, which works exactly the same instead of using this. I also recommend using this one, which is just as good, okay? With this one, you want to place the bar, okay? At the lowest point that the Smith machine or the squat rack allows you, and then place a little bar pad here. And why is this better? I usually prefer it to the standard bench position where you place your foot this way, okay? But I just don't like it just because of the way my foot feels, okay? Just feels a little bit uncomfortable and it hurts a little bit when I'm doing it. And as always, I always listen to my body. So if something doesn't feel right, I won't do it. And I prefer doing this little variation because this will allow my foot to be much more comfortable in a much more natural position as well, okay? So what I normally do, I just place my foot there. I also grab a little dumbbell, which is here, okay? This variation, I like to have a bench next to me. Why do I like to do this? Just because I struggle a little bit more with my balance. And I like to have this to have more stability so that I can focus more on the exercise rather than worrying about wobbling around, okay? So having the bench next to you will give you that stability. If you want to work your core a little bit more and you want to work on your balance a little bit more, you can have the bench away. But especially if you're a beginner, I recommend using a bench as well. And only use one dumbbell at a time. Maybe just try and go a little bit heavier. Put your foot on top of the bench. Just take a wider stance just to target your glutes a little bit more and descend down, okay? You go all the way down and up, leaning slightly forward. So if you have a smaller stance and if you stand upright, you'll tend to target your quads a little bit more. So if you want to make this exercise a little bit more glute dominant, take a bigger stance and lean forward, okay? So down and up, engaging your core. And you see, because I'm holding onto the bench, I'm not wobbling around much, okay? Because the bench is really helping me this way. So of course you swap over with your legs. Now onto the last category, but it's still really, really important. Okay, we've got the cable abduction variation. And why is this so good? Because it helps you target this area of your glutes, AKA side glutes and gluteus minimus and medius, okay? So to do this, this is a staple, again, a staple exercise I've been doing for years. And I always feel like a good isolation exercise is always important because what I've been showing you, that pretty much all compound movements, okay? Compound means that you'll be targeting more muscles at once, okay? So you want to tie this near your ankle, around your ankle. Now with this exercise, you don't want to go too heavy, just because you're only targeting a small muscle, okay? So what I want you to do, rather than just push with your foot facing the wall, okay? I want you to slightly rotate it, a 45-degree angle, like so. This will allow you to target this area a little bit more. If you targeted this, there will be more of TFL, I would say, and abductors, more like here, your quad area. So I would actually encourage you to slightly rotate it and form a slightly 45-degree angle like that. So tilt your foot, okay? You want to lean forward, tilt your foot and kick to the side like so, okay? You don't want to go too heavy with this all the way, okay? So you can have a nice stretch, okay, all the way down. And that's it for me, yeah. These are my 5 staple exercises that help me grow my glutes the most. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, don't forget that I offer one-to-one online coaching if you want me to help you find what exercises work best for you. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon.